This guide covers all the actions Viper as of 7.2 of Dawntrail learns from level 80 to 100, in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. We will start with a tutorial on how to play Viper at level 80 and then, as we work our way to level 100, summarize the changes in the rotation at level 90. In the final summary at level 100, we outline an optimized opener and explain how it leads into the general rotation, alongside 2-minute burst considerations. We also touch on the stat priorities of the Viper. Now then, let's start with the basic dual-bladed filler combo. This begins with Steel Fangs and Reaving Fangs, and they will each change into other weapon skills contextually as you make your way through the combo. Steel Fangs grants the effect Honed Reavers, while Reaving Fangs grants the effect Honed Steel. Both last a minute and override each other, and specifically buff the potency of the other combo starter. What this means for you is that you simply alternate which one you start each combo with. Whenever you are on this step in the combo sequence, your Viper sight gauge will glow yellow with the left sword if Steel Fangs is boosted, and the right sword if Reaving Fangs is boosted. Alternatively, the appropriate button will also glow to tell you what to press next on your hotbar. After either Fang is used, Steel Fangs turns into Hunter Sting and Reaving Fangs turns into Swiftskin Sting. Hunter Sting gives you a buff, Hunter's Instinct, that increases your damage done by 10% for 40 seconds. Swiftskin Sting instead grants you a buff, Swift Scaled, which reduces your global recast timer, or global cooldown, GCD for short, by 15% for 40 seconds, making your rotation go faster. If you have neither buff up, I recommend applying the speed buff first by using Swiftskin Sting, as it will allow you to more quickly get the other buff up again as well. If Hunter Sting is used, then the Steel Fangs button turns into Flank Sting Strike and Reaving Fangs turns into Flank Spane Fang. Both actions have green icons and are flank positional attacks, and so do more damage when used from the flank. If Swiftskin Sting is used, then Steel Fangs turns into Hind Sting Strike and Reaving Fangs turns into Hind Spane Fang. Both actions have red icons and are rear positional attacks, and so do more damage when done from the rear. Each of these 4 combo finishers grant you a buff that makes a different one of the 4 finishers do more damage, with Flank Sting Strike boosting Hind Sting Strike, boosting Flank Spane Fang, boosting Hind Spane Fang, boosting Flank Sting Strike. This might be a lot to take in, however, the Viper sight gauge will help direct you as to what to do next. On your step 2 combo, it will glow red left when you should press the Steel Fangs button and glow red right when you should press the Reaving Fangs button. Alternatively, again, the appropriate button will glow too. The button the game directs you to is the one that contains the currently boosted finisher. On step 3, the appropriate side will glow blue. Again, the button itself also glows. It may be beneficial to place Steel Fangs further to the left and Reaving Fangs further to the right, so as to not confuse yourself. Finally, whenever you use a combo finisher, the action Serpent's Tail turns into the ability, or off global cooldown, OGCD for short, Death Rattle, which you should use immediately. On 3 or more targets, you replace Steel Fangs and Reaving Fangs with Steel Maw and Reaving Maw, which equally turn into Hunter's Bite and Swiftskin's Bite. These 2 options turn into Jagged Maw and Bloodied Maw at the end, regardless of what step 2 you use. But alternating the finishers will still do more damage. Serpent's Tail will instead turn into Last Lash, which also should be weaved immediately. The rotation is, in essence, the exact same, just replacing 2 buttons with the AoE options. A key difference for AoE, however, is that since it doesn't matter which step 2 you do to access the appropriate step 3, your Viper sight will not guide you on which step 2 to use, so you need to keep track of which buff you most recently applied yourself. Additionally, the Honed Steel and Honed Reavers buffs are shared between single target and AoE, meaning that these naturally flow between them no problem. The combo finisher buffs, however, are action specific, meaning that swapping between single target and AoE frequently can cost you a lot of potency by replacing buffs. You may not be able to do much about this, but it can be a point of optimization. Finally, each of these boosting buffs only lasts 60 seconds, and it is possible to sometimes distract yourself from these combos for so long that they tick out, so it may be worth checking in every so often. Similarly, keep in mind that a combo only stays active for at most 30 seconds, so if you have a running combo, remember to return to it to finish it. Speaking of deviating, let's next talk about the Twin Blade. Vicewinder has 2 charges and a charge time of 40 seconds and does greater damage than both of the Fang options. Vicewinder's recast time is by default 3 seconds, causing the rotation to slow down a bit when used. Vicewinder combos into both Hunter's Coil and Swiftskin's Coil, and, unsurprisingly, these two grant the same damage buff and speed buff as the similarly named Dual Blade actions. Hunter's Coil is also a flank positional, and Swiftskin's Coil is a rear positional, and using one combos into the other, meaning you can use Vicewinder, Hunter's Coil, Swiftskin's Coil, or Vicewinder, Swiftskin's Coil, Hunter's Coil, as you prefer. Optimally, in an opener, you really want to make sure you already have the speed buff before using Vicewinder, so I recommend leading with Hunter's Coil to also gain the damage buff once you start using Vicewinder. Once the opener is over, however, it doesn't really matter which coil you use first as long as your buffs don't run out as a result. So if a particular positional is easier to reach first, you can start with that one. Take note that the Vicewinder combo does not break your Dual Blades combo, so you can freely jump into Vicewinder at any point in your Dual Blades combo sequence. After using Hunter's Coil or Swiftskin's Coil, the two actions Twin Fang and Twin Blood turn into the OGCD's Twin Fang Bite and Twin Blood Bite, which should be double weaved in this longer GCD window. Take note that they need to be used in the correct order for maximum damage, a core feature of Viper. Hunter's Coil boosts the potency of Twin Fang Bite, which will then boost the potency of Twin Blood Bite. Swiftskin's Coil boosts the potency of Twin Blood Bite, which will then boost the potency of Twin Fang Bite. This means that your two example sequences will be Vicewinder, Hunter's Coil, Twin Fang, Twin Blood, Swiftskin's Coil, Twin Blood, Twin Fang, and Vicewinder, Swiftskin's Coil, Twin Blood, Twin Fang, Hunter's Coil, Twin Fang, Twin Blood. Since Vicewinder is your strongest combo sequence at this level, you should make sure these don't ever sit on 2 charges, and in an opener sequence, performing both Vicewinder charges in succession of each other is a good idea. Similarly, using 1 charge on the odd minute in a fight and 2 in the even minute alongside any potential damage buffs can also be beneficial, although a rather level-specific optimization. On 3 or more targets, you instead use Vicepit, the AoE version of Vicewinder, which in the same way leads into Hunter's Den and Swiftskin's Den. They work the exact same way, and Twin Fang and Twin Blood similarly turn into Twin Fang Thresh and Twin Blood Thresh, with Twin Fang being used first with Hunter's Den and Twin Blood being used first with Swiftskin's Den. Finally, for utility options. Slither allows you to dash to either a party member or an enemy. You can hold 2 charges with a 30-second charge time, so simply use this whenever you need to reposition. Writhing Snap serves as a ranged filler attack if for whatever reason you cannot be in range to use any of your many better attack options. Now, to summarize level 80, let's cover an actual boss fight opener and rotation. You can use Slither to quickly close the gap, then use Reaving Fangs, then Swiftskin's Sting to get the speed buff. Then use Vicewinder, you can weave True North here if you like. Then use Hunter's Coil, Twin Fang, Twin Blood, into Swiftskin's Coil, Twin Blood, Twin Fang, and then finish your Dual Blades combo with either finisher into Death Rattle. Remember, it is a rear positional like Swiftskin's Coil. Then perform 1 more full Vicewinder combo. This then leads to the general rotation. Due to the charge time of Vicewinder being 40 seconds, you can use it in pairs when raid buffs are up, but ultimately, making sure you make use of every charge that is available to you is what really matters. Aside from this, simply follow the glowing buttons in your filler combo. Assuming you finished off your opening combo with Hindbane Fang, Reaving Fang's button, the combo sequence kinda boils down to a 222-111-221-112 looping rotation. Don't get lost in the sauce and remember to check in on the Vicewinder. For area of effect, simply use the AoE versions of the same buttons on 3 or more targets. If the AoE section is short-lived, you may benefit from making sure you can address the enemies with the Vicepit combo alone so as to avoid overriding your single target combo finisher buff. With that, let's continue on past level 80. At level 82, your Viper Sight gauge is expanded with 2 slots for rattling coils. When you use Vicewinder or Vicepit, you get 1 rattling coil. Rattling coils are spent with a new weapon skill called Uncoiled Fury, which has an even longer 3.5 second GCD and does very good damage, especially for an area of effect attack. Not to mention, it is also a ranged attack. This means that in an opener, you could use these if there are any raid buffs, and if you get any damage buffs throughout a fight, this is also a decent opportunity to quickly sneak in a potential slight damage gain. But most importantly, if there are opportunities to hit multiple targets, or times in a fight where you have to step away from the boss, Uncoiled Fury can fill in the gaps, which, in the case of ranged attacks, is far better than Writhing Snap. If you have 2 rattling coils and haven't found a need to spend any and you're about to soon use Vicewinder, make sure to spend one. At max level, it is worth pointing out that Uncoiled Fury is stronger than the Vicewinder combos in terms of potency per second, with the specific advantage of doing its damage more upfront than them. However, at this level, due to Uncoiled Fury lacking the interaction with Twin Fang and Twin Blood, Uncoiled Fury is significantly weaker than them, but still has the advantage of being more flexible in when you can use them, and beats your dual blade combos. In your opener, I recommend using Uncoiled Fury right after you finish your second Vicewinder combo set. Unless you're saving any of them for flexibility later, of course. At level 84, you get 1 extra charge on Slither. This does not change anything for your rotation. You also learn Melee Mastery 2, increasing the damage of your dual blades combo finishers. This also does not change anything for your rotation. At level 86, you learn the ability Serpent's Ire, which simply allows you to instantly generate 1 rattling coil every 2 minutes. This should of course be used on cooldown. This means that in your opener, you weave this right after Reaving Fangs, and before your second Vicewinder combo, first use Uncoiled Fury, and then perform your second Vicewinder combo. At level 88, you get 1 additional rattling coil slot. This means you can be even more flexible in when you want to use your rattling coils. Just remember to not overcap on them by forgetting about them. In your opener, you can once again wait with Uncoiled Fury until after the second Vicewinder combo is finished. Remember to save coils for mobility. I also recommend, to make sure you don't overcap, to immediately use Uncoiled Fury when you hit 3 coils, unless you know you will need the 3rd one for something. At level 90, you unlock the Serpent's Offering gauge and the Reawaken weapon skill, which supplants Vicewinder as your burst option, meaning these can now just be used whenever. Reawaken has a GCD of 2.2 seconds, slightly faster than a normal GCD, that leads into a combo of 4 attacks that each have a GCD of 2.0 seconds. Serpent's Ire is also upgraded to Grant Ready to Reawaken for 30 seconds on use, allowing you to use Reawaken for free once after Serpent's Ire is used. All of your combo finishers are also upgraded to fill the Serpent's Offering gauge. The dual blade combo finishers grant 10, where the twin blade combo finishers, both of them, grant 5 each, meaning finishing a combo generates 10. The gauge can hold up to 100 and is spent in sets of 50 exclusively on Reawaken, which does good damage to nearby enemies and then generates 4 Anguine Tribute stacks in the Serpent's Offering gauge that you have 30 seconds to spend. While you have Anguine Tribute stacks, some of your other weapon skills are changed. Steel Fangs and Steel Maw are both replaced with 1st generation, Reaving Fangs and Reaving Maw are both replaced with 2nd generation, Hunter's Coil and Hunter's Den are both replaced with 3rd generation, and Swiftskin's Coil and Swiftskin's Den are both replaced with 4th generation. These 4th generation attacks are designed such that the 1st generation does more damage if used first, and each generation that follows in order does more damage if used in the correct order. This means that this burst should be Reawaken 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation, which is then performed by pressing the buttons for Steel Fangs, Reaving Fangs, Hunter's Coil, and Swiftskin's Coil in that order, or their AoE equivalents in the same order if you prefer. Of your main buttons, the ones that are left out is Vicewinder and Vicepit. Reawaken functions as your burst mode, and it is certainly not a bad idea to save at least one for whenever you get a raid buff from someone else, or saving it for the 2-minute burst. Serpent's Ire giving you ready to reawaken also means that saving 50 gauge yourself for the 2-minute burst allows you to use this burst twice in a row for the 2-minute burst. When you plan to perform 2 reawakens in a row, make sure your buffs won't end during it, and if you have a filler combo running, take note that after 2 full reawaken combos at max level, you have exactly 1 GCD of time left to continue the filler combo without breaking it. Also take note that while the Reawaken combo does not break your filler combo, it does break the Vicewinder combo. And while it can be funny to perform 3 Reawakens in quick succession, performing this without any of your buffs running out while also fitting them within a short enough time frame that it can be beneficial combined with a gem draft or some such requires a lot of skill speed, which may not be worth the investment. Since level 80, your Viper side gauge has been expanded with rattling coils which can be spent on Uncoiled Fury, either for a nice damage option, an amazing burst on AoE, or as an amazing filler when you have to go out of melee range. You also got the Serpent's Offering gauge, and Serpent's Ire, which gives you a rattling coil and allows you a free use of the Serpent's Offering gauge to use Reawaken, leading into the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generation combo sequence. Reawaken is particularly great to use in bursts during raid buffs if possible. To no one's surprise, these new additions change your opener significantly. You can use Slither to quickly close the gap on your target, then use Reaving Fangs, Weaving Serpent's Ire, Swiftskin's Sting, then Vicewinder, Hunter's Coil, Fang then Blood, Swiftskin's Coil, Blood then Fang, and then use Reawaken, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation, and finish your Dual Blades combo into Death Rattle. Then use Uncoiled Fury twice, followed by another Vicewinder combo. At level 92, Uncoiled Fury is upgraded to interact with Twin Fang and Twin Blood just like the other Twin Blade attacks. Twin Fang turns into Uncoiled Twin Fang, and Twin Blood turns into Uncoiled Twin Blood. You should use Uncoiled Twin Fang first and Uncoiled Twin Blood second, the same sequence as Hunter's Coil and Hunter's Den. Aside from this massively boosting the total damage of Uncoiled Fury, making it actually stronger than the Vicewinder combo's average potency per second, the main thing this changes is that in your opener, you may want to use Uncoiled Fury twice before finishing your filler combo instead of after. At level 94, Second Wind is upgraded to Heal for More. This does not change how you use it. At level 96, Reawaken is upgraded to grant a 5th stack of Anguine Tribute, and Reawaken itself changes into Ouroboros while you have Anguine Tribute stacks. Ouroboros is a Twin Blade attack with a 3-second GCD that hits incredibly hard and is meant to finish every Reawaken burst, meaning you simply add it at the end after 4th generation. This doesn't change the rotation much beyond adding this extra GCD during every Reawaken. At level 98, Feint is upgraded to last 15 seconds. This does not change how you use it. At level 100, each of the 4 generations is upgraded to interact with Serpent's Tail, just like all the Dual Blade finishers. After each generation, Serpent's Tail turns into an appropriately named legacy to match, which should be weaved immediately, meaning 1st generation grants 1st legacy, 2nd generation grants 2nd legacy, 3rd generation grants 3rd legacy, and 4th generation grants 4th legacy. To round off, let's first talk about an opener followed by general rotation, as well as how this works with the 2-minute burst. And finally, let's briefly touch on stat priorities on gear. Let's begin. You can use Slither to quickly close the gap, and then use Reaving Fangs, Weaving Serpent's Ire. Then use Swiftskin's Sting, and then Vicewinder. And if you intend to use a gem draft, late weave this here. Then use Hunter's Coil, Fang, then Blood, followed by Swiftskin's Coil, Blood, then Fang, into Reawaken. Then use 1st Generation and Legacy, 2nd Generation and Legacy, 3rd Generation and Legacy, 4th Generation and Legacy, and then Ouroboros. Then Uncoiled Fury, Fang, then Blood, twice. Then finish your Dual Blades combo into Death Rattle, followed by Vicewinder again. And if you did use a gem draft, use Uncoiled Fury again here, Fang then Blood, and finish with Hunter's Coil, Fang then Blood, leading into Swiftskin's Coil, Blood then Fang. This then leads to the general rotation. The Viper rotation is a lot about maintaining timers and making the most of the filler. Whenever Vicewinder is available, use it, assuming you're not just about to use Reawaken. Remember to use Uncoiled Fury first if Vicewinder would overcap your Uncoils. Vicewinder can also be used to briefly play for time if you can't reach the positional for your combo finisher, although Vicewinder will need that same positional moments later. Uncoiled Fury can be used in the same way to play for time. True North is also always an option for this. For the filler rotation itself, simply pressing the glowing button should serve you well with minimal concerns. Remember to use Death Rattle after every combo finisher. It is recommended to hold 50 gauge that you have Reawaken available in case a raid buff should be activated. In a more coordinated group, simply using one Reawaken somewhere around the odd minute and using another alongside the extra one afforded by Serpent's Ire on the even minute should be optimal. Take note that performing 2 full Reawaken combos back to back only gives you just enough time for one more GZD before your filler combo drops. Uncoiled Fury also serves as a slight damage uptick that you can spend while benefiting from damage buffs, although, as they are ranged, it is also highly recommended to hold these in case you need them to play for time when not in melee range. Optimally, try to finish fights with no Reawakens in stock and as few rattling coils left as possible, and no Vicewinder charges if you can. Although, finishing a filler combo is better than straight up using Vicewinder specifically, for example. This means it is perfectly normal to finish a fight with multiple Uncoiled Furies used back to back. Finally, remember to use Serpent's Ire on cooldown. And take note that if you do so, Serpent's Ire can be used as an egg timer to keep track of other party members' raid buffs, although your Serpent's Ire should come off cooldown a few seconds before the buffs would be ready. For area of effect, the AoE versions of your regular combo options are better on 3 or more targets. Uncoiled Fury is also just generally really good on AoE, and so is Reawaken. It is worth mentioning that your filler combo starter buffs, Honed Steel and Honed Reavers, also work for the AoE versions, but the venoms granted by your combo finishers are action specific, meaning that if you already have a single target finisher buff, finishing an AoE filler combo comes at the cost of losing that single target buff, and vice versa. If you know you will be able to return to finish a single target filler combo before the buff ends, it can be a small damage optimization to rely on things like Vicepit, Uncoiled Fury, and Reawaken for temporary AoE sequences to preserve the single target venom buff. Next, to clearly outline a 2-minute burst. Optimally, you use Reawaken like 1 GZD before raid buffs come out, assuming you have 0 skill speed. If you have some skill speed, Reawaken can probably be used right after buffs come up. After that, you simply perform the full Reawaken combo, finishing with Ouroboros, straight into another Reawaken combo. If you started the first Reawaken after a filler combo step, make sure to use another combo step immediately after finishing the second Reawaken combo. Similarly, if you're going to have a filler combo running when you go into the double Reawaken combo, make sure your last GZD before the first Reawaken was a filler combo. Also, make sure your buffs don't run out during the burst. Finally, regarding stat priorities, take note that in nearly every single case, item level beats out optimal secondary stats. This means you should always prioritize gear with higher item level as long as it has dexterity on it. After that, you want as much critical hit as possible, followed by determination with direct hit very close behind. Try to keep them somewhat balanced, those two. Skill speed does have its very specific advantages for Viper in that a large amount of it could enable you to fit 3 Reawakens in sequence inside a gem draft. But the damage lost by choosing skill speed over the other damage stats makes it not worth it most of the time. Skill speed is however not useless to Vipers, so you don't have to outright avoid it. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Ko-Fi, link in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact: originally, Viper released with a debuff called Noxious Gnash, which increased damage taken by the target from the Viper for 20 seconds, which could be extended to 40 seconds. This was applied by Reaving Fangs, Reaving Maw, Vicewinder, and Vicepit, at the time called Dread Fangs, Dread Maw, Dreadwinder, and Pit of Dread. This led to a rotation focused on minimizing the amount of uses of Dread Fangs as much as possible by using Dreadwinder smartly. Note that Honed Steel and Honed Reavers were added at the same time that Noxious Gnash was removed.